Tranquility, Miya. The teacher's clapping in an attempt to get the class's attention startled me out of my reading and left me irritated. My eyebrows furrowed and scrunched together slightly as the teacher began to talk about our summer reading assignment. I enjoyed reading, but rather on my own time and at my own pace. The books at the school assigned students always bored me and left me with more work to get done. I had zoned out by this time and turned the page of my book, The Diary of Anne Frank, feeling pity for the poor girl who experienced those times of oppression and war before her unfortunate end. I pushed a strand of hair-colored hair behind my ear before it could fall forward in front of my line of vision. I hope you all have a great vacation. Don't forget to finish The Great Gatsby, I heard my teacher call as I stood up and pushed my chair in. I walked out of my class and down the hall, blocking out the sounds and letting my world go numb for a few minutes. I reached my locker and plugged in my combination. Grabbing my backpack, I stuffed my binder and planner into it before kicking my locker shut. Stopped by my homeroom, I picked my skateboard up from the corner. Have a good break, Mr. Harada, I said, walking out of the room. He looked up from his book and gave me a smile and a wave. I walked out of the front entrance to the high school and saw my boyfriend, Miya, Chinen, leaning against a railing on his phone. He always skipped his last period, saying as he already got his art credit, there was no point in sculpting. Miya, I called as I jogged toward him. He looked up from his phone at the call of his name and flashed me a smile when he saw me. He got off the rail and hugged me tightly when I was within arm's reach. Hey, I said, getting his attention. You can let me go now. Right, sorry about that, said Miya. He picked his backpack off the ground and slung it over his shoulder. His hand was entwined with mine, and he led me through the crowd of students trying to catch their buses. We walked down the sidewalk and off the school grounds and headed for the park. We always used to hang out there, especially on Fridays when we would sit on a certain bench at a certain time, gazing off towards the lake. We arrived at the park and walked through the iron gate. The foliage shone in the blistering sun and dense humidity. Birds chirped up the trees peacefully, observing the people that walked below them. The occasional few flew away cawking as children ran up to them, screaming. Me and Miya walked quietly together, in one hand my skateboard, and in the other his hand. We strode under the shade that blocked the hot Okinawa sun from reaching our porcelain skin, free of sunburn. The bench we usually sat at came into view, but as we walked towards it, we noticed that a family was occupying it. Miya, who was visibly disappointed, was snapped out of his scowl as I led him to a grassy area near the lake. I set my things down and lay down in the grass, filled with a sense of tranquility I wouldn't be able to find elsewhere. Miya joined me and lay down next to me, turning his head to gaze at me. His eyes were closed, and as a breeze tickled my face, I let out a quiet exhale. I opened my eyes and turned my head to look back at him. A smile was plastered on both our faces as we looked at one another fondly. Leaning forward, his lips met mine in a sweet, short kiss. We allowed ourselves to relax and close our eyes, happy to be in each other's presence. I was happy back then before the accident happened. Now, look where that got us. Jealousy, Reki. The scorching sun made me and my friends sweat, desperately looking for a way to give us sunburns. We walked underneath the shade of trees dotting along the sidewalk. I walked side by side with Langa and Reki, headed back on our way home. I was about to take a sip of my Slurpee, but Langa stole it and held it above his head. Langa? I spoke slowly, my expression turning dark. Give it back. No, he said, a smug grin on his face. If your lingy ass doesn't give my Slurpee back, you're going to end up like your dad. Langa turned pale and calmly handed me my Slurpee, gulping in fear. Are you guys done? Reki asked from the side, his hands stuffed in his pockets. He was chewing gum and staring off into space aimlessly. I frowned at his response and stuffed my hands in my pockets. We're having fun, man. Chill. Langa spoke, causing Reki to regard him with distaste. The latter let out a suspicious spinning around and walking down the sidewalk. Langa and I went after him, tripping over each other. Wait up, I called. You walk too fast. Yeah, sure I do. Reki replied, a big smile on his face. Or maybe you're just too slow. I am not slow, but seeing as how dumb you can be, I am not dumb. Sure, buddy. Keep telling yourself that. Hey! Lover boy, Langa. I've known Langa since I was 10. He likes snowboarding and fantagram, animals, especially the dog at his workplace, watching YouTube, the chirping of birds in the morning, rain, spending time with Reki, and sleeping. He also likes me. His hair is sky blue, and so are his eyes, and he's 5'8", or 178 centimeters, if you care about that sort of thing. I think he's pretty hot, but that just might be my opinion. At 10 years old, my parents kicked me out of the house, so my only option was to live with Langa. His mom welcomed me with open arms and ushered me inside. I guess they're the family I don't have left. Except for Langa, he was my best friend before, but as of recently, my feelings have developed. They've grown into something more, stronger. But the possibility of me telling him that is like my parents contacting me again. Pretty slim if you ask me. That's behind us now. We're both 17 and live in Japan. After his dad died, Langa's mom decided to move to Japan. Seems more reasonable. We live on an island now, and I couldn't ask for anything more. The clock struck 7 and we walked out of the house, our hands together. So, I said, breaking the awkward tension, ready for your first day of new school? Not particularly. Yeah, same, I muttered, but at least we'll make new friends. We strode along in silence, walking through the winding paths that would take us to school. I was smiling as I skipped along, dragging Langa behind me. He wasn't too happy about that. Whoops, what I said previously was a lie. I was looking forward to school. I guess the opportunity to meet new people excites me. Definitely just me, though. The day ended up flying by. I made a few new friends and got their numbers. Langa told me he had an awkward introduction to his class, which I had chuckled at a bit. We were walking down the sidewalk, headed back home. The streetlights shone brilliantly in the dark, their shadows crawling on the asphalt concert, desperately trying to engulf us into the darkness they created. Langa gripped my hand, jumping at every sound he heard. He looked around furiously, eyes wide and beads of sweat dripping down his face. The air was humid and hot, the smell of rain approaching as the clouds turned a violent shade of gray. I felt the first drop right on my shoulder before it started pouring, ripping into the soil and splattering on the ground around us. The streetlights really complimented Langa's face, even though he was scared. My hand went up to his face, gently holding it in my hand. He leaned into my touch and calmed down, his shining blue eyes locking with mine. Langa leaned down and connected his lips with mine, unbothered by the pouring rain that soaked us. I kissed back and relished in the tranquility that this moment gave to us. He made me happy, and I made him happy. That was something that I will always get satisfaction from.